So it seems that a lot of stuff has been happening behind the scenes over at Bioware for the past few days. There's some new info coming up about a full studio meeting with the entire staff team, following of course the expose that we had a few weeks back on the company's own internal problems. If you didn't know about that, then go ahead and check out Kotaku. They pretty much posted one of the biggest controversies within the past 12 months, and of course regarding Bioware's own internal problems for the better part of the past decade. There's also a lot of work being currently put in the upcoming update, and that is set to drop sometimes within the next week. There's also a development live stream coming up with the new features, with the new stronghold. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on at Bioware right now. This might explain why for the past few days there was a lot of silence on Bioware's side, and why we didn't see anything Anthem related, at least nothing significant. Anyway, let's start things off with what went down inside the studio, because there's news coming up of a all-hands meeting with the entire staff that happened this Wednesday. We knew this would be happening as the company's general manager Casey Hudson has announced this would be the case, and they would be organizing it in an attempt to fix some of the major issues that were reported, and these were of course the mismanagement of several Bioware projects, including Anthem, which is the main point over here. Employees of course being affected by a stressful working environment was also one of the main topics, and there were other major technical issues regarding the game's development. So yeah, quite a lot of stuff has been discussed this Wednesday it seems. Hopefully we get to find out more soon, but in the meantime we have some stuff coming out from Jason Schreier. Once more, he's the person behind the huge article from a couple of weeks back, and he's got some more information from people with first-hand experience who work at Bioware and who were part of that meeting. In his Twitter post from yesterday, he said Bioware held a long all-hands meeting for staff on Wednesday to talk about various issues raised both internally and in Kotaku's reporting, of course on subjects like production practices, Frostbite engine, etc. A couple of people I've talked to are optimistic about changes, others are far more skeptical, and of course people's reaction to this news was mostly supportive, as they do want to see the company getting back on track, Anthem getting in a better shape, because they do want to see this game succeed and the company along with it. It's definitely a game that could have a huge potential if things were done right. One user replied on the importance of reporting these issues and bringing them up to light. Change never happens unless you keep the pressure on. Journalism and worker rights are a long haul, and this is an industry-wide issue, and I would even argue that this is, a worldwide issue. There's a lot of other industries and countries that have this problem, and I am sure that many of you who are in different countries, not just the US, and maybe even worked in your life, you probably already have faced some of these issues and having to deal with stressful working environments. Other people replied with never trust the management, which I totally agree. This could be just some PR talk, maybe an attempt to try to bring things down a little bit to calm the waters, and then pretty much go back and resume whatever they were doing before. And yeah, as I've said, others are just hopeful for the future of this company, and one user said, in the end I'm glad Bioware still have the chance to redeem themselves, and there's hope for them to make great games again. Later on he replied to a user who asked him if he was contacted by Bioware or EA, and his reply was that neither EA nor Bioware have talked to him since the news article was out, but it sounds like their internal response has been far more serious than their blog post last week made it seem. So whatever is happening right now at Bioware, it's probably all red alert right now. I mean, there's a lot of issues that need to be fixed, and having these issues being brought up to light and having the studio working upon them can only translate to good things towards the game and towards the fan base. So hopefully whatever Bioware has going on right now gets sorted out, and we get to see, for a change, something else rather than just controversies. Now, how serious this response is, we have yet to find out. Hopefully we do so within the next few days, or maybe within the next week. But the two biggest complaints, which were the poor managing of the game and the Frostbite engine itself, are not problems that can be made to go away in just a couple of days. From what we know so far, there hasn't been any news on firings happening at Bioware. There's no person in the leadership over at Bioware who has lost his job or got moved in the past couple of weeks since this whole situation came up to light. On the other hand, fixing the working conditions is something that can be done in a relatively short amount of time. but considering how Anthem right now is quite behind the schedule in terms of features, in terms of functionality, in terms of bug fixes and all of that, and how it still needs a lot more added to it, I can still see this problem persisting for the better part of this year and the working conditions not seeing much improvement. That is why I believe Jason said there's still a lot of skepticism left. It's because there's these issues that have existed for a very long time and they have been there ever since the game started being developed and probably even before that, so the solution isn't really as easy as it might seem. Now moving on to the next point, which is of course all about the Frostbite engine. Unlike the previous problems, this is probably the one least likely to get solved in any significant manner. Changing from the Frostbite engine to something else was already too late by 2017, when they already made their first playable demo and already had assets in the game and other stuff created for it as well. Nowadays, with the game being already out and in full update mode, their only option is from here on to go forward, adapt to their limitations pretty much and bring whatever system they can to it and make it work the way they can. Even Schreier himself puts it perfectly, and he says it would take much longer to start from scratch on something like Unreal Engine than it would to be sticking with whatever they've got. So yeah, I don't think Unreal Engine is going to go anytime soon. Bioware already spent years working with this engine, be it for the better or for the worse, creating already and implementing tools compatible with it. And since Frostbite is already complicated to begin with, I doubt that there's any way in which they could port those tools to a different engine such as Unreal, and Unreal is already being said to be much more suitable for third-person RPGs, but since they will have to start from scratch, I don't think that is feasible at this point. It's also because of this reason why I believe Bioware won't be doing a relaunch of Anthem, despite how appealing it might sound to a lot of players, and even to me it sounds quite appealing, knowing that there's a possibility for a complete turnaround, how it was for example with Final Fantasy XIV. While that of course, and already having spent years and tens of millions of dollars making it in the first place, even if Bioware goes on with the relaunch option, it would take years to create a new resources, time in which they could pretty much probably find other ways to get around all of the current limitations and other technical issues. Also add the fact that Dragon Age 4, which is or was up until recently still being developed in Frostbite engine using the tools created for Anthem, only solidifies this reasoning further. So yeah, even Dragon Age 4, which isn't even out yet, there's not much other than a teaser around it, is still being developed in Frostbite, and there's still, you know, tools being brought up from Anthem to it. So yeah, if this isn't a clear indication that Bioware is still planning to go with Frostbite for the time being, then I'm not sure what it is. Now, if Anthem 2 will happen, or whatever other project Bioware wants to bring in the future, well, that might leave some room for something else rather than the Frostbite. We already saw other companies under the EA umbrella using something else rather than Frostbite. I could see a situation where Bioware could bring up a new game and start from scratch, and it would make sense over there. Like for example, if they would take 4 or 5 years, use the Unreal Engine, and then maybe create something like Anthem 2, they would probably even be able to pull ahead in terms of implementations and development compared to what they could do otherwise by just using Frostbite and trying to patch things out around it. But again, the relaunch option is something that I simply can't see coming out from a company under the EA umbrella. It's not something that a company like that would do. On one hand, it would require for them to admit fault, as you know, relaunching a game pretty much implies that they are admitting fault. Second of all, it would require them to pretty much throw 7 years and tens of millions of dollars to waste and add additional resources on top of that to bring the game up to speed. So yeah, that is why I'm saying that I would only see Anthem 2 or whatever other future project Bioware will bring using something else than the Frostbite engine. Anyway, that's it for now. Until more news comes out, at least we have the fact that the recent problems have caused a great shift in Bioware's internal affairs, so hopefully this will translate to an immediate result for both the company and the game in a positive way, of course. So hopefully whatever comes out is going to end up good for this game and for the community and for Bioware themselves as well. Finally, I also want to make one announcement for those who stuck up until the end of this video. As you may or may not know, I'm doing a giveaway on this channel in partnership with Instant Gaming. If you haven't checked it out already, then there's a link down below you can follow for the giveaway, and you can take part in this giveaway by simply being signed up on the website, also following me on social media and Instant Gaming as well, and then you can pretty much pick whichever game you want. It can be Division 2, Anthem or whatever. So yeah, go ahead, take part in the giveaway giveaway, and in about 2 weeks from this point we're going to be announcing the winners. Anyway, in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, of course a thumbs up and a subscribe would be super appreciated, and I'm gonna see you guys next time.